Welcome to On the Table, a podcast about board games, card games, and tabletop war games. Welcome back to episode 77 of the On the Table Gaming Podcast. I'm Chase, and I'm joined by the illustrious Josh. Josh, welcome back on.
Thank you, Chase, for having me.
How are things going for you in the wide world of COVID-19?
You know, it's just a thrill a minute excitement, but I actually did paint some miniatures, so that's
I'm excited. I love it. I love what you got going there, and you got some flayed men painting up, and you got your Baratheon wardens.
Yep, it's happening.
Well, next time we play, we're gonna have like these beautiful, immaculate armies.
I mean, they'll be painted. Mine won't be beautiful.
Oh, your stuff is amazing. What are you talking about? Good gosh. Yeah. So I don't know. Like, you know, it's been tough, but you know, hopefully we have some good stuff coming up on the horizon.
I think CMON Expo is going to be virtual.
Oh yeah. So that was actually supposed to be last weekend originally, the actual expo. You know, it was pretty devastating to hear it was canceled. I was really excited for that one. I was almost toying with the idea of trying to go down to Georgia, but now I don't have to go down to Georgia.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's like I wasn't going to be able to go anyway. So this is actually kind of cool. Like we're going to check it out remotely.
Yeah, and have a virtual expo should be awesome. So it looks like it's going to span over 3 days. So on Saturday, they've got general contests like painting contests. And I believe the way it works is you can put your own painted minis out on their Facebook page, on their comments, and they'll have instructions on the CMON Expo Facebook page. And they're going to pick their favorite painted miniature and one at random to win. So even if you are not at James Wapple levels of painting, you can still get a chance to win something. Although, you know, got to shoot, aim big.
I'm going back to the roots of cool mini or not, right? Just
yeah. Oh my gosh, you're right. A total blast from the past.
Full circle.
They've got a bunch of other stuff. Zombie side contest. There's going to be some live gameplay, some game developer panels, and that's where it's going to be super exciting for Song of Ice and Fire. Because we already kind of know some rumors of things, at least I would think.
Yeah, there's some rumors floating around.
Because the big one I think was at Gamma, which is like a trade show. It's, you know, not for the general public, but there's always somebody who like sneaks a camera in there or something.
The heroes.
Yeah, exactly. And we had been sent these like really crappy, grainy versions of a PowerPoint that seemed to have information about Greyjoys on it.
I love new factions. Greyjoys would be awesome.
And last year at CMON Expo, they did reveal House Baratheon and House Targaryen.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, it would make sense that we might have another faction announcement. That would be pretty cool.
Think we would get two factions?
That would be crazy. I don't know. What would be the second faction?
Because they tend to release too close together. Baratheons and Targaryens were close together.
Something in mirror. Now, I wonder if that's going to change up, though, because the way they're doing Greyjoys. In Q4, they're releasing Greyjoy with the starter set and then a few units, like a hero box and a core unit. Or maybe it wasn't a hero box, but with a few things. Yeah, so you start off with a bunch of stuff. So maybe this is like a whole shift in how they're rolling things out in general. But what would be the other faction that you'd want to see?
Well, I mean, how many houses are left? You've got Greyjoys and then Tells, right? Is there anybody else?
Do you think we're going to see... I mean, I think people were surprised when there was Free Folk. Are we going to see like, you know, House Aaron or some like smaller like sub factions or, you know, what about the, you know, Karstarks or I'm trying to think of what other small factions? I guess that would be just like.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of those are going to fall under like sub factions. Now, maybe House Aaron, because they are like a major house, would be its own thing. But I mean, if Highgarden is basically going to be folded into Baratheons, which, you know, that might not be the case long term, right? That they might become their own faction and be able to use some of those other, you know, characters. We've seen characters with multiple faction identities before, but yeah, I mean, it seems like they wouldn't really be on their own. But I mean, maybe it could be cool. Are we missing anybody else? I mean, there's definitely a lot more stuff to come for like neutrals, I think.
I mean, it really just like it's be Dorne then, right? That's what's left. I mean, that's the one people would be asking for, the Sand Snakes, the House Martell.
Yeah. That would be cool.
Although, do they like really, I mean, are they really represented in the books as a military might? They're much more like political influencers.
Yeah, well, I think they're known for their like holding out, right, against all odds. And they had that really horrible, brutal war where they just, you know, kind of, I'm trying to remember exactly. It's been so long since I've read the books, but weren't they well known for being like this really sturdy defensive army that were like the only ones who ever stopped the Targaryens when they had dragons?
That's very much true. But I feel like that's like those things that are like whispered in the books, and like we don't get a lot of like point of view characters that are in wartime. But I guess it
I
could
think
be
I
true
saw
for
that
a lot
more
of the things.
in the book. What was it, like the Targaryen history book?
Yes, that's true.
One that you gave me, because that was where they talked about it.
Yeah, and I guess you're right. We if it's in the books, I think that expands much of the books, right? They may not be limited to just the Song of Ice and Fire series. I think it might be all the written works. I'd have to double check on that actually, though.
I don't know how much like how many military units we saw of theirs. I think are they mainly known for spears? Is that like
Yeah,
how
I
like, the
think
spearmen
so.
are there?
Because that right, or maybe that's from the show. I mix up my lore sometimes.
Oh my god, me too.
Oberyn and all of that, but poison spears. Maybe they'll have a poison spear unit. That'd be cool.
Yeah, and then Ariel Hota with the axe.
Oh yeah, I
Some
think.
cool characters.
But I think that'll be cool down the line. It's always good. Like, what happens after that? Then what are we thinking? But I think Greyjoy is the next thing that seems immediately on the horizon that we at least know like a tentative like release date. That would be cool. How do you think they would capture that as a faction, though?
That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, because they think about like their whole thing is like raiding, right? Like not necessarily being like an army of can hold, but more like just pillage. So I think that they'd probably be hard hitting, but then maybe not really durable. Maybe fast and like have some cool like ways to enter in from board edges or play around with movement more, but then not really have like staying power.
Like endless hordish, where they can like just keep coming from different angles or something.
Yeah, maybe.
Although I hope
like
not.
That.
I kind of want Endless Horde to be a free folk exclusive, but
well, yeah, we don't need. I don't know if we need for those because I don't know if they're necessarily known for having overwhelming numbers so much as they are for.
Right.
Just being like just kind of showing up, reading
like
everything.
A Brendan Tully sort of thing, where they're like, "I'm in the rear."
And maybe they could like steal stuff, like maybe that could be part of it. Like they could have some ability to like their characters.
Yeah, like every time they kill a unit, their movement speed is slowed down because they're carrying away fat loot.
Yeah, maybe they make some of your MCU characters into salt wives. I mean,
oh, geez, I could carry off, capture, and like kidnap things, steal attachments. Like
that's what your Melisandre is now.
Oh yeah, there we go.
Attachment in my unit of raiders or something.
I don't know. That would be cool either way. I think that's sort of like Viking aesthetic. I know a lot of people that play Free Folk that I know are also into that sort of like Vikingish sort of aesthetic. And I think that the Greyjoys will probably be another faction that will be popular with that crowd.
100%.
So hopefully we'll find out on Saturday, man.
I mean, and not to mention, I mean, like who knows what's coming out for the factions we have, right? There's still a lot of stuff that's be determined for some of the other factions that we.
I do wonder though if like because of all the delays with COVID-19, if they're going to be a little bit more conservative with what they share at this CMON Expo, because timelines may now have been shifted back. They don't want to be like in that sort of gap area where there's nothing really to talk about.
Yeah, I mean that's possible. I wonder. Like, I mean, China is largely back to manufacturing, right? So
that's true.
But yeah, so I mean, maybe it won't impact it that much. I mean, maybe they'll be a little cagey about like committing to dates and stuff. But that's kind of par for the course. I think it gets there when it gets there is sort of the standard.
We got some contests going on Sunday, and one of them is for showing off your gaming table. And I know for Song of Ice and Fire, a lot of people have cool tactics boards and other accoutrements. Like that'll be a great one to push out, and I'm kind of excited to see what people have for submissions on that, because this is a game that doesn't necessarily always have the coolest scenery. People oftentimes go with the 2D, but there are some people that have gone like all out and made like Castle Blacks and these crazy throne custom tactics boards. So I'm kind of excited to see what like the wider community has.
That's interesting because it's like you're playing with trays like this. It is kind of hard to go with like a 3D scenery, right? Because like if you have like with individual models, it's a little bit easier to have some hills and rocks and smaller items because you don't necessarily have it's not that difficult to move around. But then if you have like a big block, it's right. More challenging.
So we'll see.
It's cool though when people add some height to the table.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I'm really excited that I'm going to be doing the Q&A for Song of Ice and Fire, and I believe that's on Sunday. So guys, if you're listening, make sure you tune in to that stream and you get some questions ready for Michael Chanel and the CMON folks. Make sure you get some questions ready for Michael Chanel and the CMON folks. That'll be a great way for us to kind of, dig deeper into what's coming down the line, and maybe even talk about, and maybe get to pick his brain a little bit more about what's been revealed the day before. I know I'm really excited. This is like a Song of Ice and Fire holiday season where, you get all these cool goodies spoiled. Then you got to You got to wait to play them, but still.
Right.
Or do you think there'll be creatures of the dragon persuasion?
I mean, hope so. It's like that would be badass. I mean, Targaryen's like the first question. I think. And not to mention, there could eventually be a others faction.
Trying to get those books.
No, but yeah, I mean, one of the first things people asked was like, "Are there dragons? Are there, the Night King?"
That would be kind of cool.
Yeah, hopefully dragons. I mean, I don't like the thing about dragons is they'd have to be so ridiculously powerful.
Or they could be like little baby dragons. I wonder if they're going to do them with like tactics cards, though. It'll be like, we know there's a Mother of Dragons box that's slated to be released later this year. I'm wondering if it'll be like a Khaleesi, a Daenerys, commander that has like really powerful tactics cards that like roast things. Or
cool.
If they'll be like solo dragons or dragons for the tactics board. I don't know. Be like,
I think dragons would fit on a solo tray, or would they be a war machine?
I don't know. Or war machine. Depends on the size. I'm assuming they're going to do a variety. But who knows? It could just be like, skin changers where it's like you field her and they like are tokens that go out and mark things or something.
Yeah. I mean, that was one of the cool things the card game did was like you had like the cards that when game first came out where they were just like the little babies. Mm-hmm. And then like as the card game progressed through like the timeline of Fire or Game of Thrones in this case, so ridiculously powerful.
That would be. That's crazy. Yeah, well, we'll see what happens. We'll be having this conversation in like a week or maybe less, and being like, "Holy crap! I can't believe this thing's out there." But what is it going to be? Nobody knows. And hopefully we'll be getting back to playing these games like in person soon. There's no real roadmap yet for what it's going to look like for like a lot of local gaming stores, but I know some places around the country and world are opening up. And, hopefully we'll be back to pushing pieces of plastic in little trays around in an actual table. And we'll be doing that soon.
For sure. I mean, I think I get the feeling that things are easing up a little bit. I just hope that, we're doing it responsibly. And then, when the time is right, everyone has a chance to play this game. I think we still have to get like a quad game.
Yes.
Or like a 2-on-2 or like a 4-person free-for-all, something like that.
Would you be up for challenging some Patreons for a 2v2 game on Tabletop Simulator?
Of course.
Oh my gosh. All right.
We want to lose.
Let's. Oh gosh. All right.
You always got to talk a big game.
All right. Talk a big game.
You inevitably fail.
The cool thing is that we can definitely, what do we do? 2v2? Do we bring like, both of us just take, 10 sets of Raiders with no attachments and no NCUs? We have 20 trays.
Have to figure something out. We'd have to go with like a bigger table, probably.
Oh man, let's talk about this in the Patreon Discord then, because I think we do need to get a Patreon a 2v2 game going. That might be kind of fun, actually.
Yeah, that'd be hilarious.
After CMON Expo, maybe with some of the.
I'm not really good at navigating Tabletop Simulator. I know
me neither. So it's.
Right? I may knock your whole tray over. And
there we go. Oh, it's made some improvements. So we've made some improvements.
Good.
So it's made some leaps and bounds. So with that being said, I'm really excited to shift gears here and talk to our guest, Nessie Knows. Now, you might have seen some of Nessie Knows videos. He's making a Song of Ice and Fire content now, and I really recommend checking him out. I know he's really big in the Infinity world, but it's great to have him now moving over into a Song of Ice and Fire, and I'll definitely be following that content along with his Legion materials as well. So, Nessie, thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
Oh, thanks for having me, guys.
Now, most people might know you from your YouTube videos. You have your unboxing videos for Song of Ice and Fire. And now I think you've got those weekly Tales from the Front, Song of Ice and Fire videos. And I just can't believe how fast. That last video I saw was you trying to walk through some Starks. And you're talking about how you're going to try and paint them up in a week. And I think there was like 33 of them. How are those coming out?
Oh, they're done. Last week, I realized I needed a goal because obviously we're all on the quarantine, and the previous weeks I have been doing just small units for other games, and this time I realized I needed a larger goal. So I decided I was gonna finish painting my Starks, and I started with my Sworn Swords.
And I saw those up on your Instagram account, which is phenomenal. They came out amazing. So you're not only getting them out fast, but you're making them look, amazing.
Yeah, thanks for that. It really was a whole week. It was Monday basing them with texture paint, and then Tuesday priming, and then Wednesday 1 unit, Thursday another unit, Friday another unit, and I think I collapsed somewhere around Friday night.
You're more machine than man. I guess it's
Felt
the
that
wrong
way.
genre. Wrong genre. So, for people that maybe don't know you as well, I know you also make Star Wars Legion content and a bunch of other games you cover on your channel. Before we get into that, what's kind of your gaming background? How did you get into, wargaming and tabletop gaming just in general?
It stemmed from Inquisitor, which is honestly a
Ah.
40K game. But I didn't know 40K was a miniatures game at that time.
Okay.
I saw a picture of Sanguinius in the book, and I immediately was like drawn to that genre. So immediately I wanted to find out more. So 40K became something I was interested in. And then as it progressed, I played more 40K. I learned how to play Infinity, which is a different tabletop game. And I was predominantly Infinity for about 4 to 5 years. And I helped establish one of the biggest Infinity groups on Facebook called WGC Infinity.
Okay.
And I was running that for about 4 to 5 years. And I took a break about 18 months ago, and I started jumping from games. I never found a niche to call home again. Like, I left one apartment, but I didn't have another apartment set. But a year ago, I ended up getting a Song of Ice and Fire at Adepticon. And it was part of the giveaway. They were just giving away starter sets.
Yeah, lucky man, you're going to walk out there with a big box of minis there.
Yes, I did. And I'm also friends with James Wapple.
Oh, there we go.
So I saw him paint his Lannisters and his Flademen.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, these are nice. Tell me about the game. And Jim and I spent like 2 to 3 hours talking on just painting and his thoughts on painting the miniatures. And he loves the style because it's Dark Sword miniatures, and he's a big Dark Swords fan. And I got to play the game with a friend of mine locally. I gave him my Lannisters, and I was like, here, let's try this out. And him and I have gone back and forth ever since. But predominantly, it feels now like A Song of Ice and Fire has grown close to me because the stories are good, the books are good, and the TV shows are good content from time to time, and
mostly good.
right, but I prefer the books.
Yeah.
And the game is great, and it keeps changing, and I like the fact that it keeps evolving. So in the 10 years of gaming that I've been, my daughter's 11, so it's about 10.
Oh wow. So you painted 33 Starks in a week, and you have a kid. So you get some high expectations there, man.
Yeah. But my dad's work ethic has always been very good. He jokes, but he's very proud of what I've accomplished as an artist and as what I do for a living too. So,
and so I saw also from some of your other content that you have some of your miniatures that you actually paint for stores or have them displayed.
Yeah, that was kind of weird. I'm not a commissioned painter like some of the others out there. I just paint, and I spent the last 2 years honing my craft and getting better, and I think I've gotten better.
I just know because I follow you on Instagram, and the other game I like to play a lot is Star Wars Legion, and I think it was your droids was on display. Was there more as well? But I definitely saw your droids. Definitely
the droids. It started with the store was like, we want to display Star Wars Legion because all we display is 40K. But Legion grew as the store was running a league. Legion exploded for the store. So they wanted to display an army. And none of the other gamers at the time caught their eye to display an army. And they asked me, you paint your droids pretty good. And I was like, well, okay, thanks. And you want to display them in the cabinet? And I kind of dropped my jaw.
Yeah, that's like an achievement unlocked. That's like a next level thing here.
That is. I've never done that. So I finished painting my droids, and they're like, okay, what's next? I was like, what do you mean, what's next? Well, what about the droid expansion pack, the leader units? I was like, okay, so I did that. And they're like, well, you're going to do the B2s, right? I was like, yeah. Okay, so I did the B2s, and then quarantine happened,
Right.
and I'm like, am I ever going to see my droid army again?
Oh, geez.
But they told me is that if I ever needed to get them for
Mhm.
whatever reason, the one of the managers would open the store. That's not a big deal. But
And just for people listening here, you're in New York City, right?
I'm in the Bronx,
The Bronx.
which is one of the biggest boroughs for New York City, but also has the largest people with the virus right now.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, I'm in New York City, but my local game store is outside of the city. It's actually
Oh.
about 40 minutes of a drive north.
And where do you play? You want to give them a shout out?
Sure, Toy Wiz Collectibles. They're
Toy Wiz
over in
Collectibles. Okay.
Toy Wiz Collectibles. They're in Nanuet, New York.
I actually heard of them before. That's come up before. I just don't know. I've never been there though.
Yeah, it's about, I say about 40 minutes from the Bronx with traffic, and they're probably, you're in Connecticut, right?
Yep.
So it's probably about an hour for you, depending.
That's amazing. At some point, we've got to meet up. I know I made the drive down to Mythicos, came right by the city.
Yeah. So I mean, if it's about an hour. It's probably about an hour for you, depending where you are in Connecticut. But it's a good store. It's gone through some changes. It's got a lot of comics and a lot of gaming as well. And I've been going there for maybe about 4 to 5 years. I used to do a lot of Infinity tournaments there, and we were doing our Legion event there, and that's where the droids came in. And I've been buying my army for Legion there. It's been great. So they push the plastic.
Gotcha. And yeah, actually, and one of my buddies, Brian, who works on a Song of Ice and Fire builder with me, he is actually in Brooklyn. So I go down there every once in a while to see with him. So I know from his experience that the one thing the city doesn't have immediately in the city, it's got everything you could possibly want in New York City except space. And sometimes getting big gaming places to be able to have tables to play, it can be a little bit tight down there. So
no, that's one of the big things. There's gaming stores in Brooklyn and Manhattan, and there's clubs, but space is so limited that the store that I go to, Toy Wiz, they changed, and they took out a back room. It used to have 3 rooms, kind of like the front store, the middle of the store, and the back. The back store was huge, and they would have a lot of space, but the gaming area is still big, and we have about, I want to say about 8 to 10 6x4 tables.
wow.
And then they have those 2x6 tables, I believe they're the folding ones.
Yep.
They have I want to say hundreds, but it's probably like a good 30 of those. So if we wanted, we could use them as extended tables.
It's crazy.
But gaming's fun there. Gaming goes from, like I mentioned, Legion, 40K, some Marvel Crisis Protocol. I was gonna start pushing a Song of Ice and Fire this spring. I don't know when that's happening.
Right. Yeah. That's temporarily on hold.
Yeah. So I figure, why not paint? I got these models. Why not paint them?
And so, just from seeing some of the stuff you posted, it looks like you're going in on House Stark.
Yes, I'm a big House Stark fan since the TV show. That was my first introduction to the series, to the game, to the books, and since then I've always liked it. And the game added more to the fact that it was more book than show. And
right.
I like that. I like the way Serial Pharrell looks, and I like the models are just tremendous. So House Stark for me has always been a standing point of the North remembers it bases itself on honor,
right,
and it will do whatever it takes to defend the North.
Plus, I mean, who can really hate on having some awesome characters and giant dire wolves that will maul people? So
that has always been that case. I've always liked wolves. And I was like, wait, they have a 8-foot tall wolf as a pet? I think I'm good with this.
Let's do it.
This guy has a white one that disappears into the north wall. I like that one too. So it is the fact that both my armies, House Stark and the Night's Watch, have dire wolves in it. That is true.
That's true, yeah. So, hopefully things will start picking up again soon, and we'll be able to get out there and be gaming more in general. Less than ideal situation right now with COVID-19. Have you gotten many games in? Have you been in sort of enjoying the style of play?
I played. It was for a time I was playing about 2 games every week or every other week. And my friend and I would play Starks and Lannisters, or Starks and Free Folk, or Night's Watch and Free Folk, those 2 armies that we had. And we would try out plenty of games. And my first tournament was at Mythicos.
Oh, okay.
I think it was like a 14-man or 16-man tournament. And I tied for 3rd. And I was actually very happy about that.
That's amazing, yeah.
Yeah, considering I had no plans of even competing that high. I just wanted to play. And the tournaments have been really good. So the game itself is a lot of fun. It's 40 points. Most of the time it's maybe 5-6 units, depending on what army you're playing, unless you're playing Free Folk. And
yeah, exactly. That's a self-inflicted wound, though, right?
It is, but then it's like, oh, you have 4 raiders, but I don't get any points for killing them. So,
right.
So it's
I love that mechanic. Yeah.
I found it I was like, yes, I killed that unit. I get nothing for it.
Yeah, it's definitely more enjoyable on the receiving end when I'm like, oh, darn it, you killed my unit. It's like, well, there's no loss there.
Yeah, and then it's like, oh, he plays a card, he bought that unit back.
Yes, it's an endless horde. I mean, it's got to be.
It is, and it's like it's a wake up call, because if you're focusing on that unit, it gets you nothing. But then you have the giants.
Right.
That if you focus on them, they're going to
focus on them. You better kill them, because if you don't finish it off.
Yeah, I've grown to the fact that I've thrown Serial Pharrell with Stark Sworn Swords at a giant has worked out very well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like here, you
don't give out tips on killing giants.
Yeah, it's like that's my giant killing unit.
Anyone who's listening, don't play against me with that.
Yeah, it's like it's my friend Josh, he plays Free Folk, and he will use he uses 2 giants, but he uses the guy from the Free Folk, the Craster.
Yeah.
And he heals them on top of, and then later heals the giant some more. So it's like, I call the giant Weapon X from Marvel.
Yep.
Because he would just heal, and I was like, wow, this is unstoppable. And then I got my ballista from for the Night's Watch, and it was over.
Yeah, that's scary.
So he goes the other direction.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a fun game. I love the way the faction identities have developed. And the best thing about it, one of the big selling points for me is that it's really like an easy game to transition into, in that you can pick it up and just put it on the table and play it. If you're not into hobbying, you can still play the game. And if you are into hobbying, there's so much stuff you can do with scenic basing, and the miniature sculpts for being single pose miniatures. They're actually rather detailed.
Right. And that's why I like watching Jim paint his Sword of Ice and Fire models, because he takes them from pure plastic and he makes them into almost works of art.
Mm-hmm.
And it's inspired me to just paint as well more. It's seeing his techniques and seeing what he does. I don't try to duplicate. I try to just achieve a level where the models will look good on the table. And my Stark army has been working out that way. 33 models in a week is not my highest number, actually.
Wow.
86 is.
Holy, that's like the entire contents of the Starks and Lannister box or something. You're getting
it was literally 2 Umber Berserker units, the trackers, the archers, and like some other parts here and there. So it was a hard job, but it was fun. It's enjoyable to see the fact that when my Starks will be eventually on a table, they will be fully 100% painted. And it's a great goal to have. I only have 64 more models to go.
We're getting there, getting there. That's phenomenal, though, man. So having come from, I hear a lot of players that actually come into a Song of Ice and Fire had an Infinity background. I wonder, it's kind of like an interesting like thread that's being seen across some of the new recruits to the game, coming in with a kind of an experience with other games. Are there any things about the game that you things that like really stand out that you really love about the mechanics of the game? And are there any things that you're like, oh, here's something that maybe you feel like you'd like to see explored more or might be missing?
Great question. So for what I enjoy about the game, the simplistic combat rules, even though people they will nitpick on certain parts, it's very simple on how the dice mechanics work.
Mm-hmm.
They broke it down into a tree structure. I attack you, I do any triggers, then you do any triggers for my attack, and then you save. You do your saves. And then any trigger cards or such. It's very simplistic. So much so that it can get very complicated because you're the timing issue. But I believe Michael has and the rest of the guys from Cool Mini or Not have answered those questions to the best of their ability. But the attacks and the dice mechanics is very simple. I love it. It's better than I do this, I get plus this, and this, and then you get minus this.
Right.
And then you get lost in the math. It's
right,
very
and that doesn't necessarily like add. If you're trying to play the game, like the focus is on more on the playing part and getting things moving.
Right.
It's like
charts. I need 3+ to hit. How do you know?
Right.
It says right there on the card,
right.
3+ to hit. Great. Oh, I charged. I get rerolls. Cool. Oh, but this card tells me I can reroll. Yes, but you're already rerolling on the charge. You can't reroll a reroll. Done. Okay, what's your saves? 4 up. Cool. I hit you on the side. -1. Oh, 4 up. Okay, so it works. It's very easy. What I find, what I would like to see more, and it's my personal preference coming again from an Infinity background, is terrain. I think the flat terrain is great, but I would really like to start seeing some terrain above, some 3D terrain. I know it kind of is hard, but you can do a 3D wall. It's not a big deal.
And I know the Kickstarter came with some like basic ones, but I mean, really at this point, if we know the footprint of the scenery, it's not that hard to just take that footprint and put a similar size 3D something on it. And then if it becomes a movement issue, take the piece off and you still got the 2D footprint beneath it.
Right. In Infinity, the terrain is such a part of the game that it adds when you see tables. It's kind of one, I've seen other games that use 2D terrain or 2D markers for terrain.
Yeah, you'd be like X-Wing or something like that.
Right.
Even.
And I'm just like, oh, that's pretty, but it's not.
Right. I think that's the biggest thing is like sometimes, if you're playing the game and people are walking by, I mean, a lot of times it'll grab their attention because of the trays and the miniatures, but it doesn't necessarily have that same sort of feeling when you go to an event and you see like a Star Wars Legion table and you're like, the scenery itself is its own attraction where you're like, oh, it's like a downed, AT-AT or AT-AT, and it's a Star Destroyer that's smashed up or something. You're like, whoa, and now you're moving these miniatures around it.
That's what I enjoy about Star Wars. I came into Star Wars just wanting to paint clones. That's it. And next thing you know, I have all 4 armies because they're just...
You had a droid army in being displayed in a store before you know it.
and I'm working on Rebels and Empire on this later on. But I just wanted to paint Rex. And then I see the terrain and the rules caught me. And I ended up buying so many, but the terrain, it just looks so good.
Yeah, I think that'll be something that we should probably have explored by the community too. People have ideas for how to kind of build up that terrain piece more.
Yeah, and I've seen people print out those really big Iron Thrones. So I've seen them create those 3D printed Iron Thrones, which look great and because you can get the one from the Kickstarter, but the one for the 3D printed is just like the full thing. It looks really cool. But that, you know, there's ways to just put a wall here, a big forest on top of where the forest footprint is, and
Yeah.
then if the tree gets in the way, move the tree. Okay. I think that would be great. It's not a bad thing. It's just something I would like to see more.
No, I agree. I think that's a fair criticism too. Any factions or characters that you'd like to see explored in the future? Things that maybe you're looking forward to. So now, I mean, we're up to 7 factions. There's a lot. Greyjoys will be quarter 4, and you know who knows what's coming down the line. But are you pretty content with the ones that are out, or is there things that you're like, man, I really want to see, you know, this?
So my third army that I got recently was Baratheons, and I tried them out at Captain Con. And you know, they weren't fully, you know, it's just one starter and the sellswords that I had with me, but they were great, and I would really like to see more expansion. The Tyrells are great army, you know, a great little niche to put in for the Baratheons for Renly. Marjorie especially, I'm really excited to see Marjorie.
Yeah.
And the Queen of Thorns, because she has always been a favorite of mine.
Right. Very iconic characters.
She is the queen of jibes, you know, like she will make you feel bad. And I want her to make you feel bad in the game.
Yeah, she will.
But I want to see when they go to Lannisters.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I want to see that part. I want to see where you could take the Queen of Thorns with Cersei.
Yeah.
At the same time. And they both, or maybe you can't, right? Like something where if you take Cersei, you cannot take the Queen of Thorns as an NCU.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the areas that is definitely available and is an option that hasn't been explored yet, right? Because we know from the books too, like these things are going to happen. We know, you know, Jon Snow's going to go beyond the wall and he's going to be with the free folk for a little bit. Does that mean we're going to see a Jon Snow in a free folk army down the line? I mean, there's nothing to say we can't, or, you know, in fact, it's in the books, and that's been their line all along. It's like, hey, if it's in the books, we can do it.
Right. And that's the cool part. It's like when Joffrey is no longer king, but Tommen is, you know, his brother is. And do we see him eventually take with the King's Guard?
Yeah. Oh.
And you know, the Cersei getting an updated version of herself, where she is just as devious, but more so. You know, she already makes me cry when I see her on the field. So, I mean, we already have 2. Is it Tyrion? Yeah, we already have 2 Tyrions. So we know we can get 2 updated versions of NCUs. So I just would like to see where the Tyrells fall into the Lannisters. Yeah. And other parts happen. I think we're still missing some Stark heroes as well. I know everyone wants the Little Bear from the Mormonts from the show. Oh, yeah. She wasn't in the books, so I think she would be a great little, like, oops, throw her in there just for fun. But I think the way the game is going so far is great. I really want the Baratheons to be expanded more, and the Targaryens. But since they're new, obviously, eventually they will. Right. So,
and we know eventually, in some form or another, we're going to see some sort of dragons, or dragon mechanic.
Right, you can see a dragon with like a war machine status. You know, it's like 11 points.
Well, that raised some eyebrows. There was a distributor that revealed that there was an item coming out later this year called I think it's Targaryen Hero Box 2, and it just says Mother of Dragons. And it's like, well, I'm assuming it's, you know, Daenerys and some dragons, but are those going to be like tactics card dragons? Are they going to be like little solo dragons? Are they NCUs? Or is it going to be like, these are like the fully grown dragons? Or maybe down the line we'll see all of that. I don't know.
I mean, the book to the point had them pretty big. Yeah. So, and they're saying they're basing everything on the book. So you can get a pretty big dragon in the game. So I think the Mother of Dragons would be sweet. I can just almost imagine where it's she had the eggs at this point. So maybe further on the dragons are a little bigger.
Yeah.
So they're like flying around and they do a little fire damage, but I can just see that mechanic growing, like just a box every so often of new
Yeah. Oh
of
god, that'd be
new
so cool.
of new mother of dragon boxes, like every so often.
And the thing is, like with the nature of the game, since height doesn't really matter, you can do cool sculpting things or do some really cool like raised bases.
Yeah, that's that. Oh, the dragons would be almost phenomenal. Dark Sword has a good reputation for sculpting great miniatures and great. Well, the dire wolves all came out great. So I'm and that's a dire wolf, like that's pretty normal. I want to see them go all out on a dragon, even if it's a medium sized one.
Yeah, man.
With Daenerys just with the dragon, like that'd be awesome.
Where can we find more Nessie Knows? What do you got in the works here?
So you can find me on Nessie Knows on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitch, and YouTube. All Nessie Knows, 2 words. And pretty much what do I have? So I got back into Infinity because they came out with a new version coming out, a new rule set. And I'll be doing Infinity models, but always a Song of Ice and Fire, always Star Wars Legion content coming up. And it's been hard trying to get new YouTube videos, trying to decide what, but I kind of figured I would just start doing more videos with like a painting tutorial on the Starks of some sort.
That would be
because
phenomenal.
I got some good responses on the pictures, and I would pretty much like to help people try to get them on the table as fast and as neat as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, when all this blows over, we're not that far away. At some point, we got to meet up.
I definitely would like that. That'd be an awesome thing to just meet up, get some food, throw some dice.
Yeah.
And record the game and talk trash the game afterwards.
That sounds good. That sounds like a plan.
Good deal.
All right. Thanks so much for coming on. And in the meantime, I hope you get your miniatures on the table.